Well, we are here at Whistler Bike Park over on the Creekside end of things, and we're here for one really specific reason, and that's to finally put out a video that we have been working on and picking away at for years and years now.
Yeah, so with our kids on the channel more and more, people want to know, what does it look like to take your kids to a bike park? And is it actually fun? So the thing is, taking your kids...
And how do you keep them alive?
So we've been taking our kids to bike parks for a lot of years. We started taking Casey to a bike park when he was about 7 years old, just little, and we have learned so many things along the way. So we have been working really hard to put together all of our tips and tricks, things we do to make things go smoothly and try and make sure everybody has a fun time.
We better get into it because there's a lot to cover. And by the way, our kids are in a lesson right now.
Tip number 2. Maybe tip number 1.
It should be tip number 1. Ship them off.
Check 1, check 2, check 3, check.
So before we get into anything, I do want to mention first that Whistler Bike Park and Evolution Whistler are the sponsors of this video, and they were cool enough to say to us, hey, we'd love for you to come out, do a couple sponsored videos, and make them on any topic that you want. And so when it came to Whistler, we knew immediately that now was the time to make this video at Whistler because, I mean, if you've never been there before, you wouldn't know this yet, but it is probably the best place to bring your family to go mountain biking.
All right, so our first tip before you even get going on your mountain bike trip is to practice some things at home. Our kids are now old enough to fill a camelback, pack a rain jacket, and pack a snack, but that didn't all happen overnight. It took a lot of practice to get them there, and now it's one less thing that Ryan or I have to do that morning when we're getting ready to go to the lift. We say, nice. Boys, fill up your camelbacks and pack your snacks, and they know what to do. And so it's something that makes things go just a little bit smoother for us in the mornings.
Yeah, it takes one more thing off of our plates, which is great. And another big thing that you can do at home before going to the bike park is have your kid practice putting on their pads, and especially if they have brand new pads or helmets, make sure they're able to wear those on at least a couple of rides before you get there, because you don't want to be, getting to the top of the lift and having a kid going crazy that a tag is rubbing their knee or whatever. And a great example of this is that one of our boys, we got them a new camelback, and they also had a new full face at the same time. And once we hit the trail, he was actually saying that, like, I keep hearing this noise. What is this noise that I keep hearing?
It's driving him a little crazy.
It was driving him crazy. And what it was is we had routed the tube for the camelback the wrong way, and the tube for the camelback was rubbing on his helmet, and he was going crazy. And so just little things like that can just help smoothen out your first day at the bike park. So yeah, a little bit of prep work before getting there makes all the difference. So when our family goes to visit bike parks, we try and make sure we've got two things dialed in pretty nicely. One, where we stay is very, very close to the lift, as close as we can possibly get it. And two, that place where we're staying, we also don't want it to be like right next to the crazy giant party bar of the village or whatever, because we kind of need to sleep at night, and especially our kids need to sleep at night. And so thinking about those two things instantly led us over to the Creekside end of Whistler. If you didn't know this already, there's sort of two main hubs of Whistler itself. There's the actual Whistler Village, and just down the road is Creekside. And what's really cool about Creekside in Whistler is that they have the new Creekside gondola and all these new amazing Creekside trails. But there's also some really great places to stay, like we stayed at Evolution Whistler, which is right near the gondola. Like, you just roll your bike down and you're there within 30 seconds. And what's also really cool about Creekside is it's a little bit quieter of an area. It's not as crazy of a hub.
Don't tell anyone.
Right, yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that. It's not as busy of a hub as the main Whistler Village, and so we find that's kind of the sweet spot for fast trail access and being able to sleep.
Yeah, and another part that's important to us when we're looking for a place to stay is looking for a place with a kitchen.
Yes.
Bike park days fly by so fast. I don't know if there's any days that go by as fast as bike park day.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Like you go up for your first run and all of a sudden it's like 2 p.m. somehow.
Yeah, so it's super important to us to get there when the lift's open. And part of that is having a kitchen that we can grab a quick breakfast and head off to the lifts. Because as any parent knows, just getting out the door to go grab a quick bite to eat is never a short experience.
True.
Always going for the big line. Yeah, Casey. Woo!
All right, so you've made it to the hill and you're ready to ride. The next thing you have to do is get those kids' bikes on a lift, which is sometimes easier said than done. Couple great ways to help out with that. I have noticed that most mountains, I know for sure Whistler does, and I've seen a few others out there that have, what would you call that?
It's a practice loading tray.
Yeah. So it's the same trays that you would find that you're gonna put your bike on the actual lift itself, but they've got them off to the side somewhere in the village so that everybody can actually practice getting them on and off. Because when that thing's actually coming up to you and it's moving, it can be pretty overwhelming for adults, let alone little kids with bikes that weigh the same amount that they do. Another thing to look out for, if the mountain you're going to has multiple lifts, oftentimes there'll be different ways of loading the bikes out for these different lifts. Sometimes it's a gondola where you're rolling your bike in or on the back wheel. Sometimes it's going to be the bike tray style. And so it'd be good to look around ahead of time and go to the lift that's going to be the easiest for your kids to actually load their bikes, or for you to load their bikes, however it works. And never feel bad about asking the lift attendant to help, because that's their job.
This next one's a big one, and we both know from personal experience that you should never try to do it all in one day. Bike parks are huge playgrounds, with Whistler being one of the biggest. There are so many different bike trails to explore and so many places that you're going to want to try and ride that if you try and do it all in one day, you're just going to be frustrated because there just isn't enough time.
No,
So-
or you might get in over your head too quickly with your kids following behind you. It's really hard to pace yourself, especially at a mountain like Whistler with all the different zones and all those amazing trails that you've heard about and seen.
Yeah, and a huge part of making it a good experience for everyone is being able to be patient. And if you're riding the same green run again and again because that's what your kid needs to do, it's going to be really hard to be patient if all you can think about is, I only have one day here.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into the next tip, and that is start on easier trails than you think you need to. We find that when we've brought our kids down a trail that we know that they can do, but would be, right, maybe almost at the top end of their skill level, it sort of can break their confidence a little bit if it doesn't go super well. I mean, we've all been in this situation before where we go in cold into a trail that is pretty tough. It can get into your head, and sometimes it can mess you up for the rest of the day. So if you take your kids onto a trail that you know that they're gonna be fine on, like more than fine on, they're gonna have confidence right away. They're gonna be saying to you, oh, what are we doing on this trail? It's like, this is too easy. And just that little bit of a difference in their mentality can really go a long way for the rest of the entire day. And then you can step up little by little into harder and harder trails. It can also swing the other way too. With our son Casey, he just wants to send it full on all the time. He doesn't look, he just goes flying off of jumps and hopes for the best. And so it's really good to be able to start small and work your way up and let them get a feel for the bike and for the mountain and for the dirt, the terrain, all that kind of stuff before they go trying to hit A-line. And the perfect warm-up trail that we found on this last trip was you go up the Creekside Gondola, and there's a really awesome trail called South Park. It's a nice, big, wide blue trail. It rides very much like a green a lot of times just because of how wide it is. Nice big berms. It's just a ton of fun for everybody, and it really lets everybody warm up a little bit slowly for the day.
And we found that it was really quiet in the morning,
Yeah.
and so it was a perfect warm-up for the kids before having, faster riders coming up behind them. They got to get comfortable on the bikes and on the
Totally.
trails.
Yep.
So one of the things that I like to do when I'm following the kids is I give them a little bit of space, and then I do one of two things. One, I work on my skills, like cornering skills, all this kind of stuff at a slower speed, which I find helps me actually learn and do this stuff much better. Or I try and like find good shrelpy corners. Oh yeah. And then two, try and play some games. One's called No Pedals, No Brakes. And I just try not to use any pedals or brakes for as long as I possibly can. So you'll start off slow, but then within, you know, one corner, you're going really fast. You just try and hang on. But the main takeaway is just because you're following behind your kid doesn't mean it's wasted time. It can be a lot of fun, not only from watching your kid shred, but also a great time to work on some of your own skills. Woo!
Well, now you've had a good solid day of riding with the family, and you've really enjoyed spending time on the trails with the kids, but you're ready to do something a little different.
You're ready to go shred the nerve.
So what we found works really well for us is to put the kids into a lesson.
Yeah, lessons. Woo, love the lessons. It's great.
Yeah, and not only is it great for us to have an opportunity to go ride the stuff that we've been wanting to go and ride, but it also gives them a break from being with us to go and learn from someone else who actually probably knows better than we do.
Oh yes, most definitely. Yeah, when you put your kids into lessons, they're with certified coaches, and they go off and they oftentimes get to ride things that we didn't even know about previously. They're learning skills that they're teaching us afterwards. They have a great time. We have a great time trying the trails that we've wanted to go and ride, or meeting up with friends or whatever. Yeah, win-win for everybody.
Yeah, they usually come back from the lessons all excited to tell us about some trail or some jump that the teacher took them on that we had never heard about before.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Another thing that we've done if we don't have time to put the kids into lessons or it just doesn't work out is that we'll take turns doing a solo ride down a run. I'll take the kids for a bit, and then Ryan will go do a run, and vice versa.
Okay, we've got to talk about gear for a quick second, bikes in particular. As we all know, the bike park can be rough on one's body. Lots of braking. and the bike as well, yeah. And so having a bike that can handle it is really important. Having a bike with the right kind of geometry and suspension and tires, super, super important. One, you can either rent a kid's bike. I know places like Whistler have many, many places to rent premium dual suspension, really well done kids downhill and enduro bikes. That's a great option. But if you are bringing your kid's personal bike to the hill, make sure you do a bolt check every single morning, if not twice a day. That includes the brake rotors, that includes every single bolt on the bike, really. Because it doesn't matter what bike you have, a full day of bike park can be rough on that bike. So yes, daily bolt checks, morning bolt check, and probably one halfway through for the main bolts. It can go a long way to making sure everyone's still alive at the end of the trip.
I rattled a bottle cage right off my bike on one of our bike trips recently.
Yeah. It's just gone.
It's just gone.
Check your bolts. Check your bolts. So we're talking about how to make the best family mountain biking trip possible to somewhere like Whistler Bike Park. The last trip we took with you guys was to Whistler Bike Park. What was your favorite part about that trip, and what was your favorite trail?
I think my favorite trail were like the big jump trails, like when I got to do part of A-line.
Yeah, they would be. Part of A-line? Yeah, we did part of A-line.
Let's go, buddy. Okay, a couple pedal strokes.
Yeah. That was fun.
How was that?
That was fun. I cleared it all.
Yeah, isn't it great? It just floats.
Yeah.
And you cleared almost everything.
Not
on
moon booter.
Middle A-line, minus the moon booter. Yeah, we'll get that next time.
What? You didn't clear the moon booter?
Unbelievable.
I really liked that we were staying in Creekside, so then we could hit the Creekside trails too.
Oh yeah.
And
Nice.
I also, probably my favorite trail was the Funshine Raleigh drops, and then all the way down to Wednesday Night Delight.
Tom is working on his drops. So we're here on Wednesday Night Delight There's a really great drop to move up to because it's on a really nice down angle. Ready, Tommy?
Just coming to look at it.
Fist bump for good measure. Yeah, just let off the brakes. One pedal stroke. Yeah! Good job.
I was so scared. I said yes before I even went off.
You just knew it was gonna go well.
Totally, yeah. I love that line of tech trails. A little bit of everything in there. It's kind of like flow tech. Nice. Well, that's awesome, guys.
Thanks for your help.
See you, boys.
Final tip is to be flexible. Everybody is going to come in with different expectations and different things that they are hoping to do while you're out there.
So before going into any of our bike park trips, we know, again, there's so much to do at these places and so many trails to ride. We always ask our boys, like, okay, what's like the top 3 things that you would like to see happen while we're on this trip?
It usually includes ice cream.
Usually.
And Casey always wants to hit big jumps.
Yeah.
And Tom wants to hit some kind of tech trails.
Yeah.
What
Seems
is
to be
that?
our running themes.
But it's good to get it all out there right at the beginning so that you can really try and fit in a little bit of what everybody wants to do. So those are our tips for having the very best possible bike park trip with the whole family. And again, if you have the opportunity, get out to Whistler to do that because, well, seriously, it's Whistler. There's a link in the description below so you can go check out the bike park a little bit more for next season and get your plans rolling. And yeah, thanks so much for being here. Thanks to Whistler Bike Park for sponsoring this video. If you have any tips or tricks for family vacays to bike parks, leave them down in the comments. We would love to hear them, and I'm sure everyone else would too. And hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and we'll see you next week. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.